Hello and welcome to another episode of Brand Retro. Today on the podcast, I have Lauren and Lorenzo from LORIER Watches. Guys, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah, of course. So we were chatting a little bit before I hit record. I think there's a lot to unpack here and a lot of fun stuff. This for me, just to kind of set it up, this is a fun topic for me because I love brands. I love startups. I love anything kind of that plays off nostalgia and retro. So there's a lot of cool things that you guys are doing that directly applies to kind of my interest and kind of the focus of the podcast. So start us off a little bit by kind of where did this idea come from and how did you get started with it? I think you started in 2017, correct?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we started sort of exploring what this would look like in 2017. And it started off with one of my watches getting fogged up, not even in the shower, just in the bathroom. I was taking a shower. The bathroom counter, it fogged up. And
it was an old vintage Omega.
Yeah, right.
What we use for our dress watches. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, that got us down the hole of thinking, well, what if we had a watch that looked like this but wasn't so precious? That wasn't so rare and hard to take care of and expensive and something that checked all the boxes, but it wasn't a very old piece that needed babying.
Right. At the time, we were public school teachers in Texas, and we had the summer off. And this was on our way to a wedding. And my other watch was a Seiko. And I can't wear this to the wedding. I had to go to the wedding without a watch. And when we got home, started looking for alternatives and couldn't really find anything that would be good for us. So Lauren goes, well, why don't you just design your ideal watch? And at this time, the advice on the forums was, oh, if you have small wrists, buy a vintage watch because those are appropriately sized. And yeah, having a vintage watch, it was like, well, can't actually wear these every day. So like Lauren was saying, why don't we just make a vintage watch today? And yeah, that led to the Neptune. That was our first design and sort of revealed the brand February 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah.
And I don't know how familiar you are with the world of watches, but it's, first of all, there's that, what people think of when they think of a watch. Well, they think of their Apple Watch. Or they think of a battery-powered quartz, like fashion watch, like a Fossil. And then you have watch enthusiasts who will bypass all of that and go down this passionate journey of admiring and collecting and wearing mechanical watches that, are not battery powered. You wind the crown and or it has a rotor that, collects a power reserve. And there's something kind of romantic and magical about these objects. But we know, just from living in the modern world, they're technically obsolete in terms of the technology and the service they provide. When you need to know the time, you can just check your phone most of the time. And so our purpose for being then is obviously something beyond the purely functional, because there's a variety of ways to tell the time already. And so we have a very narrow focus, and it might not appeal to everyone. And that is to make a watch that feels like you grabbed it out of a time machine. It's not a modern watch with a little sprinkle of some vintage aesthetic. This is like as close as we can get it, of course, using modern technology to manufacture it, but a mechanical movement, right? Dimensions that look and feel like a mid-century watch, which isn't always aligned with modern tastes. The materials we use, stainless steel, Hesalite crystal. So we are trying to do something a little more targeted than a lot of bigger brands or more famous brands. And for a while starting out, we weren't sure what kind of reception we would get. But as the years have gone on, it seems that there are a lot of people who want something just like how we want it, and they're looking for the same thing. And so that's kind of given us the confidence to keep pursuing our vision within these very narrow confines. Like, we'll get an email from someone saying, oh, I love the Falcon, but it's a little small. Can you make it bigger? And we'll say, it's already as big as we can make it, for, like, in terms of the type of watch we're trying to make and the references we're trying to honor. To be a bigger watch, it would just be a modern watch then. And we're not the brand for that. So throughout the journey, it's been very much staying true to our philosophy, our own vision, and learning to say no when it can be very tempting to, just give in to modern trends. And
at the core of it, we have an ethos, which is what attracted us to vintage watches in the first place. And what that means is basically we really like the idea of people just wearing a watch and not having it be sort of a status symbol or a status marker. Because like one of the things that like frustrates us nowadays is that, people buy things to impress either themselves or friends on the internet or friends in real life. And it's no longer, it seems less meaningful to us. Right. And what attracted us most about like these watches from from a certain time period in the 20th century was that, they were accessible. People could just like buy them. You could buy a Rolex at the PS, right? On a military base. And like, that's incredibly appealing because you just get this idea of, oh, you bought a Rolex, not because it was because of the name of the dial. You bought it because it was a reliable, accurate timepiece. And we kind of want to revive that spirit, and sort of the way that the watch looks and feels is sort of just a reflection of that spirit. Like, it's a watch, just wear it. And yes, it's obsolete in terms of timekeeping, but its purpose now is to have it be sort of a store for your memories and your own personal history, and just have that sort of condensed into an object. And a watch is one of the few things that does that well.
And you wear it every day. It's a daily companion more so than almost any other piece of clothing or an accessory you would wear. And for those who aren't familiar with, the watch industry, watches, like Lorenzo was saying, like Swiss-made watches, Rolexes, Omegas, they used to be more accessible. They were the mainstream, like, timekeeping brands. And then the quartz crisis hit, or the quartz revolution, where battery-powered movements were invented and made at scale more cheaply, and it took over the watch industry. And so a lot of the older watch brands, to compete with this, turned into luxury statement makers and trophy makers, and kind of backed off from just the toolish practical piece. And so that's kind of what we're trying to go back in time, because we're not really drawn to, oh, this is a little trophy, and the story of how I acquired it is the story behind it, not all my experiences I've had while it's been on my wrist. We want it to be a companion piece. And so we want it to be accessibly priced, so people aren't really anxious to wear it. No, baby it. We want it to be something people can relax and just wear it and enjoy it and stuff it up and really make it their own.
Yeah. And what I see, like, with brands today, and this is not a knock on them because I get it, but there's a point at the end, is that everybody's trying to evolve and become more modern and keep up with society and keep up with the customer and keep up with, so whatever you thought you were 10, 15, 20 years ago, you evolve that forward. And again, not that they're not, evolving and making good innovations there, but they're moving away from what people fell in love with originally. And that's what I like about brands like you guys, is that you're just saying, well, it's not that I don't want to be modern and functional and all these things, but I'm going to jump back to when it actually resonated with me in a different kind of way. And I'm just going to kind of live in that pocket. And as a sneakerhead, as an old car guy, like I love vintage classic cars, like there's just something about keeping an analog that's cool. Like whether it's old metals or, having to, pull your lights out in an old Mustang or whatever it is, we moved away from a lot of that stuff because we tried to evolve it forward and tried to become more convenient and slicker and easier. And that doesn't make it better. So like, I love that capturing a certain, era of time and just saying, well, let's play in that pocket for a while and start to generate products and brand that kind of honor that. Cause I think we forget that sometimes. We're so busy trying to evolve that, like you said, the Apple Watch. I love the Apple Watch. It's great. But it's a pretty big departure from what you guys are doing, which is totally cool because there are people on both sides of that fence that love nostalgia and kind of love that old way. Like you said, I mean, naturally, yeah, we wanted to keep time and all these things, but there's a lot to be said for nostalgia and people who just want to kind of have that accessory or kind of have that vibe or just kind of attract to those kinds of brands, which I think you guys are spot on. You're on that road. But I think there's a lot to be said about people who kind of fall in that pocket and stay there. Like, what are your thoughts on that? And was that kind of part of your, your thought process as you developed this?
Well, I'd say we approach this in a way that's more of like art driven or creative driven than like, this is our business plan and we're entrepreneurs and we're going to optimize our profits and we're going to maximize our, all these things. Like we are, I'm sure we're leaving a lot of money on the table by making the approach, like by taking the approach we do. But a lot of this is about our own personal satisfaction and fulfillment and our own desire to stay true to our vision. And that's our end goal. Like that's the best thing for us, is to be able to make our vision a reality and to have people respond to it. And so that's what we focus on. So we're not like, oh, what are we doing for Q4? We got to churn out production. When we design new watches, it's really when the creative spark hits Lorenzo and he's like, all right, I got to get down to this. I just had an idea, and he starts designing, but we don't know when that's going to hit. And we don't put a lot of pressure on it either. It happens when it happens. And we like that we're small. We like that, it's obviously we have an assembly team and manufacturing is like, we do not make the watches by hand. We leave that to professionals, but everything else from photography to customer, communications, like we do that ourselves. Like we're in the middle of a big packing week right now because we just had a restock over the weekend, and we're doing that. And there's a lot of satisfaction in being that connected to it and having that sense of, oh, this is ours and this is exactly how we want it to be.
Not to interrupt you, but like, I think the thing that's important there, and just for the record, like nobody should feel apologetic about it because you don't have to. Like in the entrepreneurial world, just like you mentioned, there's entrepreneurs out there that are all about sales and like, are the numbers mathing the way that they want them to math? And I get it. I'm not one of those brands as well. And I actually am attracted to brands that aren't like that, because I really think if you've got a good idea and a good brand and a good kind of vision that you're committed to and you're building towards, the numbers take care of themselves, honestly. I mean, you might not get there as fast as other people, or like you said, you might even leave some opportunity on the table sometimes, but you're building a much more authentic and much more accurate brand in accordance to that vision. So when those things eventually align over time, and it's just a matter of time, but when you get there, you're going to have something a lot more unique in the end and a lot more sustainable. And I think that's, kudos to you. I think that's fantastic. there's not a lot of brands that kind of operate that way. So it's rare. And I think it tells a lot about your guys' story and actually speaks a lot to the product itself.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really reaffirming.
Yeah.
I feel what you say.
Yeah. Yeah. When we were first contacting manufacturers for the Neptune back in 2017, like one of them was straight up just like, "Are you sure you want to do it this small? Like, you want to do a 39 millimeter watch?" Like, yes. Like,
It's a hurdle, isn't it? Because like, just let me throw this at you, and you can continue. Like, when I started my business, even reaching out to business coaches, and like I tried to bring people in to make my situation stronger, make me stronger as an entrepreneur. And because it's so kind of abstract, they kind of try to talk you out of it the whole time. And you're left defending it all the time, and not in a bad way necessarily, but you start to doubt yourself. Like, okay, 9 out of 10 people are trying to talk me out of this at all times. Am I nuts? Like, am I doing it wrong?
Yeah.
And with that, like, tell me about that. Cause that's,
It's
I'm
like,
sure you experience the same thing.
are we crazy? You know, like there has to be other people out there who are wanting the same thing we are and also not able to find it.
It helps that there's two of us in terms of like we can sort of boost each other. But
Yes, we can check each other too. You know.
right.
No, you are crazy.
But we're still in that space. Well, this is what we like. I hope other people like it.
And that's really like just the North Star, I think, because that's what people expect us to do. And how can you compromise your own personal taste and know that you're doing something good? You know, I think that's just who we are as a brand. Like, that's the journey for, like, we do design and we have to have a frame of reference. And that's why our collection, you know, we often get feedback. Oh, your collection is so cohesive. You can tell a Laurier is a Laurier, you know, like, and that's because it's all coming from the same source and frame of reference. And you're not, I don't know, going out of yourself, leaving your own body and mind to imagine what someone might like. You have to stay true to yourself.
Like to your point earlier about people who like analog things, what like I'm still trying to put words to it as to like why it's cool. And I heard this somewhere recently, I can't remember now, but they were saying that pleasure and satisfaction come from friction. And that's what analog sort of has, that we're trying to like, there's part of our human nature that sort of tries to like get rid of all that friction, like smooth things out.
We want ease and comfort, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't actually serve us like in the long run, ironically. And so
I think there's a splash of, you know, it's not probably not the right word, but I think there's a splash of people like to be trendy and they like to kind of play in that retro space and that nostalgia space. And I think that's what I would consider kind of what's on the surface for people who follow trends. And then below that, I think the people that they might be that too, but they really respect good engineering. They really respect the old way of doing things. They respect kind of the lack of technology to some degree, if that makes sense. I just think there's layers of people who are attracted to that sort of thing with different depths of appreciation, because even like I do the watch world a little bit, but not as much as I do the sneaker world. And being a sneakerhead, like if you've ever wore a pair of Air Jordan 1s, they're just not as comfortable. The technology's not this, like there's a lot of, if you want to just knock on them as far as like overall performance, yeah, you could pick it apart pretty quick as compared to today's, you know, cutting edge basketball shoe or whatever. But you can't replace or deny just the feeling of nostalgia, even the memories that, you know, sometimes get invoked from these types of products and these brands. And that's the part I think is invaluable, because, you know, old school classy watches that kind of nod back to a certain era or time frame, inherently for the right people, it's going to invoke memories of You know, maybe it's old Hollywood or their dad or grandpa, whatever. It's gonna make them feel a certain way that cannot, you know, with all the modern advances in the world, it'll just never replace that. And that's what I think's really special about being able to capture a piece of nostalgia and do something with it. And it's just, I mean, I'm into that stuff anyway, but I think it's also like kind of a secret weapon for brands that understand it and the ones that stick to it. You know, I think a lot of times we just want to get pulled, like we talked about the entrepreneur thing. You get enough people chirping in your ear, you want to get pulled towards something else, and it's tempting, but you will lose your way eventually. So like staying true and staying kind of tight to that original vision is just, it's just clutch, because you're always going to be attracted by or attracted to those people who really respect what you're doing.
Yeah. And our philosophy has kind of been, you know, the people that need to find us will. We don't pay for marketing. It's all word of mouth. And so we're lucky in that it's kind of a close-knit community. And most of our customers, everyone's kind of on the same page as to what they want. But occasionally we'll get someone who's maybe heard of us just tangentially, and maybe they don't know entirely what they're getting into, you know? And it's like, okay, let's go back to basics. Your watch stopped. Did you wind the crown? Like, it does not have a battery, you know? And so you go back and like, oh, hey, this person came out of nowhere, you know? But it's interesting as we've gotten bigger, how people hear of us from different, I don't know, parts of the watch community, because it is a pretty diverse niche. Like there's something for everyone, and people get into watches either because they love the mechanics of it. Like they're obsessed with the movements and all of those fine little pieces and how it all works together, and just the brilliance that is behind making something like that work. Or it's from fashion, and they want a good looking accessory. They want to feel good wearing it. Or it's nostalgia or personal history. Like I want the watch I had when I was young, or I want my grandfather's watch, or, you know, I really love vintage watches, but they're just not practical or in my price range. There's a lot of different ways to come into, you know, wanting a watch. And so it's interesting to see where people come from for us. And most of the time, like, we'll go to watch fairs that are targeted to like watch enthusiasts. Like we don't do fashion stuff. We don't do like EDC stuff. Like we stay pretty much in our tight little lane. But yeah, I think that helps us kind of stay true to our mission, is that we're not trying to reach a broad audience. We're very much aware that our limitations make us very niche.
But even though I feel like there's still a lot of communication on our part that has to be done in terms of what we really are trying to do. Because even in the watch space, there's like there's a lot of things that we don't do, or phrase it even stronger, like that we refuse to do. Like one thing that's very popular now is scratch resistant coatings on the case and bracelet, and like people love it. And for us, it's like, that's not the purpose of a watch. That kind of goes against what we want a watch to be. And, you know, like to put it in one phrase, like, do you want your watch to look like it never left the safe, even if you're wearing it every day? For us, like the answer is no. Like, you want it to look like it is lived a good life. To give you a precise example, we were in Chicago for a watch fair, and one guy was talking about how much he loves his Neptune, but you know he can't wear it because he works a job with lots of manual labor. And this was sort of, I was digesting this in my mind for a little bit, and I wish I could have told him you should, like, your watch should reflect that was your job, that you work with your hands. Like, yeah, even if it's all scratched up, like that's sort of the romance of it. Like, not to tell people how to wear their watches, but like for me, that's what makes a watch.
We're trying to avoid the preciousness and the begging, you know, of the piece. Like, no, we want this to be a really lived in, like, storytelling piece on your wrist.
Like I mean, I totally get what you're saying because I feel that way about old cars. I feel that way about Jordans. I feel that anything that I collect, I don't want to abuse it by any means, but I do like it to have a sense of having been used. Like all my cars are drivers, and like I wear my Jordans, and I know, you know, the sneakerheads freak out because you curl the toe on the shoe, and it's like, yeah, but you wear them locked. That's how it works.
Right. Yeah,
And I like that. And I'm the same with a watch. Like,
Uh-huh.
you know, it should, not that you want to ding him up, like I said, and I don't want to tell people how to wear their watches, but it should have a story by the time it's all said and done. And if that means it's got a little nick or a scratch in it or something, then that's part of the journey. Because I think anybody that looks back on, you know, maybe a memory or something nostalgic that makes them feel that certain way, it's always in reference to something that has a story.
Right.
Like you said, like
Yeah.
if it's your grandpa's watch, he wore it, right? He wore it every day, or he wore it in the war, or whatever it is, but it's got a story to tell.
Yep.
Yeah. So we don't, you know, our focus isn't on collecting for the sake of having your watch sit there in your safe. And so that's a little hurdle we run into because a lot of people are very much about that. Like they buy watches to
Right.
collect them. And thank you very much. You know, like I will take the compliment when you email and say, I love it so much. I have it in the box and I, you know, admire it. And thank you. You know, that means a lot. But the biggest compliment comes when we get emails. They're like, I've worn it every day for the past 2 years. I love it so much. Like, yes, that's the end goal for us. That's a success right there. That's why we do it.
Yeah. I mean, because you have a very well manicured look, feel. Did the brand kind of develop as a byproduct of the vision of what you were doing? Or did you kind of intentionally go into this thinking that, you know, hey, we're going to do these watches, but I have a vision in my head from a brand aesthetic or a look and feel? Or did it just happen?
It all just kind of happened at the same time, to be honest. And I mean, we're pretty particular about how our vision manifests itself. And it's also part of why we don't have any employees, because we're like, we would be terrible micromanagers. It's like, but anyway.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, I get it.
well,
I get it. Because when you're so close to it, it's tough.
Yeah.
But also, I think we're also very aware that we have a very specific story and purpose to tell. It's not just, here are watches, guys. You know, like we really have to try to communicate as well as we can what we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it. And so that's why we have a lot of, you know, we want our website to feel more like a catalog. And we have a lot of information on each product page, just explaining the piece, explaining the goal, explaining the inspirations behind it. We're very open about what we're trying to accomplish, what kind of spirit we're trying to capture with each model we produce. So I think we knew from the start we were very niche and very particular about what we're trying to do, and that it would need a lot of explanation to cut through the noise of everything else. And so we continue to try to refine that and see, okay, where are we not breaking through? Where are we not communicating enough on what our goals are? Like, where is the confusion or where is the misunderstanding? You know, why are people asking us if we're going to put, you know, make a option with a sapphire crystal? Like, they should know by now that we would never do that. You know, like, so how are we not explaining ourselves well enough? I don't know. We're still working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
So-
a process. Sorry.
I know you guys have a website and social media and different things like that, but are you guys working to get into other stores or anything like that? Or is it just something you're going to kind of maintain yourselves for right now?
The latter. Yeah. Part of our philosophy is to just price everything as low as we can up front. So
Yeah.
we don't really have the margins to do retail.
Obviously, that opens up a whole new different world of benefits and problems. So as much as you could probably drag your feet on that, it's, you know, probably not the worst thing in the world either. So what's next for you guys? What's the vision? Where are you at? And like, if you had to assess yourselves as far as like percentage of goal, where do you feel like you're at in this whole vision?
Ooh, well, Mike, to just echo what you were saying earlier about telling stories. Yeah, what's nice for us is, well, we're just in the process of making brochures for the next watch fair here in New York. And in the intro page, it says the best watch you could have is the one that tells your story.
That's awesome.
And yeah, that's where we're at in terms of our collection. And in terms of our core collection, which we're aiming to just like have like set like forever as long as we exist, is sort of the goal. We are introducing a new chronograph, which we're hoping will be part of the permanent lineup. And so we have how many models now? 6?
We have 6 or 7.
Okay. Yeah.
I know their names, but I don't ever count. But I say
So the 6 models we had.
in the core collection.
Yeah.
And then the Zephyrs on
Yeah.
the Zephyr and Rambler are separate
Right.
models, special editions. They're not, a core staple of our collection.
Right.
But I'd say, of course, you never know when the inspiration strikes. So we could just jinx ourselves, but we're very satisfied with where our core collection is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think moving forward, it will be special editions to play with those different models in interesting, unique ways while just trying to work on getting our inventory up. And because right now we have a problem of always being sold out. So we're just trying to get production
It's good problem to have.
Stabilized, consistent. We are working as hard as we can. I don't know if we can expand, sell many more pieces per year. We've kind of maxed out on that, but we can definitely make it easier on ourselves by just having things more stable and not huge waves like that are coming in right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. So in terms of the watches we want to make, sort of in the standard models that we have, we're almost there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's on the back end that Lauren was saying we have a lot of work to do, actually getting them in consistent production to the level of quality that we expect. And on the front end, I feel like we're at 10% of what we want to do in terms of how we communicate what our brand actually stands for.
Really?
Yeah, we don't.
10%?
It's
No.
so I do the photography on the website, we write all the copy and whatever, but I feel like there's a lot of potential left in terms of video because that's how a lot of people get information.
We
And
do.
we have 0 of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's not 90%. Okay. I'd say you can say 65 to 70%.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I guess overall, but yeah.
I'm guessing though, Lorenzo, that you're kind of like me where I'm not unhappy with my brand or unhappy with the growth. I'm very content with what I've accomplished, but I'm never quite satisfied with, is it perfect yet? Is it I'm always going to be my own worst critic. I'm guessing that's kind of what your experience as well, that I'm not happy with it, but yet I would never put a stamp on it that says it's done or perfect.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah.
Nailed it. So guys, thank you for being on the podcast. I am excited to not only shop, but follow along on your guys' brand journey and just kind of see what you guys are up to over the next 6 months to a year, because you guys are awesome, and I'm excited to having had the opportunity to chat with you a little bit.
Thank you so much for having us. This is a real pleasure.
I hope we all made sense.
Completely makes sense, but I appreciate it, and thanks for being on the podcast.